Kubrick's AI exposed by Mark Flynn. We got a cool one for you today. Mark Flynn analyzes Stanley Kubrick's portion of AI, artificial intelligence, the movie. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and after the video, share and leave a comment. Love to know what you think. So this comes from Mark Flynn. He recently put this out, and very special thanks goes out to Mark for allowing me to make these videos based on his blog. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, go to markaflynn.com and check it out. He does fantastic work. Also, check out his book, Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth. If you want to know more about it before purchasing, you can view the interview that I did with him on the Sharpening Report, which you can find on my channel. All right. This is one of my favorite movies, like, of all time. I love this movie, and I was really excited when I saw that Mark did an analysis of it. And I think he's dead on with this stuff, and most of this stuff I didn't pick up. I haven't seen the movie in a few years. It's one of those movies that I watch every few years, but I'm gonna have to watch it again now after this, because Mark's brought out a lot of really interesting things that I missed the last time that I watched it. So the title of the article is Analysis of Kubrick's Portion of AI, Artificial Intelligence. And it's by Mark A. Flynn. And it says, Stanley Kubrick became interested in making artificial intelligence, or AI, after reading a short story by Brian Aldiss, Super Toys Last All Summer Long, and bought the rights to it in 1982. Kubrick's development of AI originally began in the early 1970s, but up to the mid-90s, he felt that the computer-generated imagery technology of the time was not advanced enough to create the David character, whom he believed no child actor would convincingly portray. In 1995, Kubrick offered AI to Steven Spielberg, but work wasn't started until after Kubrick's death in 1999. And it says here, if you haven't seen the movie, notice, spoiler alert, there are spoilers all throughout this thing. But anyway, put bluntly, Stanley Kubrick was an illuminated genius who sought to put out into plain sight the things that remained hidden to the vulgar masses. He did this with the perfection and subtlety that only he possessed, in accordance with the Nakashian method. His art was an expression of his illuminated religion. Kubrick's artful information conveyance can be compared to forming a landscape by using many transparent overlays. Perhaps one layer might be an image of a calm lake surrounded by trees. The second might add a few sailboats with birds, and still another, scattered clouds and people picnicking around the shore. The composition cannot be fully appreciated without truly understanding the individual parts used to create the whole. For example, in the case of the lake and tree layer, Kubrick would make the name of the lake, the history behind its name, and the mythology behind the scientific name of trees surrounding it contribute to the meaning of the whole story. As with every Kubrick movie, AI should be appreciated with greater discernment, but it turns out to be a bit more difficult in this regard since Steven Spielberg ultimately produced it. On the other hand, since Kubrick worked on the movie for so long, his particular methods of conveying esoteric subtleties remain. In the first scene of AI, Tweedledum and Tweedledee from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass appear on the wall of the hospital where Monica, Frances O'Connor, and Henry, Sam Robards, Swinton's son Martin, Jake Thomas, resides in a cryo chamber kept frozen but alive in order to preserve him until a cure for his illness could be found. And if you want to look at the pictures from the movie and the illustrations and everything that Mark has, you can go to the show description below this video, click on the link, it'll bring you right there. So continuing on, as outlined in the 15th chapter of my book, Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth, the twin motif, often found in ancient myth and modern mysticism, represents the multifaceted aspects of the Nakash in the form of Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great one. See the essence of the Baphomet hidden in Harry Potter, which is another fantastic article written by Mark, and it's linked here. A symbolic illustration of this is the Masonic point within a circle, also a representation of the thrice great one, with the twins flanking the sun, or Hermes. One twin hides Nakashian knowledge from the unworthy, and the other reveals it to his elect. Because the Nakash slash Hermes is simultaneously the entity that is the source of light that he reveals or conceals, he is known as the thrice great one. The Baphomet represents the most contemporary symbolic illustration of this concept. AI incorporates aspects of the twin influence through its underlying message of esoteric knowledge understood by high level Freemasonry. It also plainly reveals the Baphomet in one particular scene in plain sight, described in Part 2. Monica's visit to her son's life suspension chamber is an allusion to the mythology of the sleeping Attis. As related in the myth, Attis's mother, Cybele, is not so much preoccupied with grief because of her son's death-like state, but waits in hope for her son's eventual awakening. Monica displays her similar faith by reading to the frozen Martin while playing the music from the ballet Sleeping Beauty as if she knows he can hear. While this is going on, Henry and Dr. Fraser discuss their concern for Monica's emotional health. Although Martin, as the doctor describes, is pending, they both believe that Monica should let go of hope and digest her grief. A scene from The Emperor's New Clothes is shown in the background while Henry and Dr. Fraser talk. The Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, 1805 to 1875, wrote The Emperor's New Clothes, a fairy tale concerning the hubris of an emperor and his subjects. As the illuminated believe, men who hope and trust in God's premise are, as the emperor, deluded with the truth, while the truth is all around them. It takes someone who has open eyes to see reality. In a twisted reversal of Christian understanding, but one consistent with the way that the illuminated believe, it would be a mecha, short for mechanical entity, boy, David, played by Haley Joel Osment, who would demonstrate to mankind and God everything that God had done concerning humanity was a selfish, unloving act. Later in AI, we shall see that the destiny promised by the Nakash, that men would be as gods, although with a sci-fi twist, turned out to be true. Not only were the gods manifest as the Nakash had promised, these gods possessed the quality of having true love and compassion, and were nothing like the uncaring, spiteful God who created men. AI opens with a scene inside the great library room of Cybertronics Corporation with Dr. Hobby, played by William Hurt, proposing to create the first artificial being who would be capable of love. To illustrate the state of mecha technology, he casually instructs the robot Sheila to undress, to which Sheila immediately complies. Dr. Hobby stops her before she goes too far. Oh, and there's a note here. Sheila, from Roman Celia, feminine form of Celius, meaning heavenly or of the heavens. Uh, to the casual observer, this would merely show that Sheila was not capable of experiencing human emotion. The book of Genesis has an account of man's first understanding of nakedness. Genesis 3:9 through 11. And the Lord God called unto Adam, and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? There is a subtle clue in the first exchange of dialogue in the library scene to the nature of the mecha creator gods. Team member number 2, but we ship thousands of lover models every month. Team member number 3, of course, you're your own best customer. Siyatsu-sama. The Japanese honorific suffix sama is commonly used for deities. San would have been more appropriate for a colleague. Dr. Hobby goes on, a mecha with a mind with neuronal feedback. You see, what I'm suggesting is that love will be the key by which they acquire a kind of subconscious never before achieved, an inner world of metaphor, of intuition, of self-motivated reasoning, of dreams. A female team member asks, if a robot could genuinely love a person, what responsibility does that person hold toward that mecha in return? It's a moral question, isn't it? Dr. Hobby responds, the oldest one of all, but in the beginning, didn't God create Adam to love him? Dr. Hobby's response is prescient and clearly illustrates the belief of the illuminated elite who worship the Lightbringer. God does not love mankind, and this is according to them, of course. Through an intensive screening process of all the employees at Cybertronics Corporation, Monica and Henry were selected as the best uh, experimental parents for David, the mecha capable of love. Rather than simply opening the sliding doors and revealing the clear image of David as he waits outside before being introduced to his parents, Spielberg shows an out-of-focus image that echoes the future appearance of his tall, alien-looking, godlike descendants. David then steps into the wooden floor to say his first words, "I like your floor." This was the first time that the integrated theme of Carlo Collodi's Pinocchio is hinted at. Although the underlying Pinocchio theme in AI is obvious throughout the movie, Kubrick most likely did not intend the story to specifically mirror the original, but to incorporate the Addis, the enduring pine references. Geppetto carved Pinocchio into a marionette after a carpenter gave him a talking piece of wood. Pinocchio means in Italian pine seed. Monica, symbolized by the woman figure with the heart-shaped hole in the mobile above David's bed, decides to make David love her. Henry cautions her, saying, "Don't imprint until you're entirely sure," to which she answers, "Silly man, of course I'm not sure." The list of words that Monica Swinton, Swin meaning peak, ton, or enclosure or settlement, says to David to make him love her was from the original written by Stanley Kubrick. The seemingly unrelated words in the list are a prophecy of what would be David's future loneliness and pain, stemming from his one desire. It also contains the method of satisfying his longing. The list reveals the complexities of esoteric subject of the nature, creation, and quality of the soul. Cirrus, Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip, Monica, David, Monica. Cirrus, lock of hair, the future godlike Mecha's resurrected Monica using the DNA contained in the lock of her hair. Socrates, safe power, whole, unwounded, safe, and Kratos, power. In Plato's Symposium, Plato was a major source in revealing the ideas of Socrates, since no known writings remain. The priestess Diotima teaches Socrates that love is not a deity, but rather a great demon. She goes on to explain that everything demonic is between divine and mortal. Monica is the voice that instills David's demon. In Plato's Apology of Socrates, Socrates claimed to have a daemonion that frequently warned him in the form of a voice against mistakes, but never told him what to do. Teddy, David's toy bear, discussed in Part 2, is the warning voice. Particle. In Plato's Timaeus, the character of Timaeus insisted that the cosmos was not internal but was created, although its creator framed it after an eternal, unchanging model. One part of that creation was the four simple bodies of fire, air, earth, and water. Plato did not consider these corpuscles to be the most basic level of reality, for in his view they were made up of an unchanging level of reality, which was mathematical. These simple bodies were geometric solids, the faces of which were in turn made up of triangles. David becomes more than the sum of his parts. Decibel. In Plato's Timaeus, Timaeus tells Socrates, in considering the third kind of sense, hearing, we must speak to the causes in which it originates. We may in general assume sound to be a blow which passes through the ears and is transmitted by means of the air, the brain, and the blood to the soul. Monica's voice speaks to David, awakening his soul. hurricane. Hurricane came to English directly from Spanish, where it is currently spelled huracán, but Spanish explorers and conquerors first picked up the word from Taino, an Arawak language from the Caribbean. According to most authorities, the Taino word huracan means simply storm, although also referred to an evil spirit. Dolphin, from Greek delphis, genitive delphinos, dolphin relates to Delphis or womb. And here's a quote from Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth, page 115. The amalgamation of Eve and the Nakash is the image of the parthenogenesis of the woman via the snake. The woman of the rotting womb, Python, appears as both serpent and human female. Delphine, which means womb, is another way of describing the Nakash-Eve amalgamation. She was the soothsayer. The root of Nakash means to practice divination. Who guarded the area of the garden gained illuminated power. Tulip, from Turkish tulbent or turban. The Phrygians wore a conical cap, or a Phrygian cap, encircled by bands of cloth, the headdress of Attis and Cybele, the stylized deshret of the Egyptian goddess Neith. Monica, associated with the Greek word monos, meaning alone, Greek monos or mone, meaning unique, to advise, alone, none, solitary, hermit. Saint Monica, the weeping saint, was a member of Saint Augustine of Hippo. She is remembered and honored for her prayerful life dedicated to the reformation of her son, who later wrote extensively of her pious acts. Popular Christian legends recall Saint Monica weeping every night for her son Augustine. David means beloved, Monica, alone. And then it says here, in this post I have skipped the specifics in certain definitions and reasoning behind the assignment of meaning to mythological figures and certain symbols such as Attis, Cybele, Harpocrates, Hermes, and Mithra, etc. Since the work of Stanley Kubrick is extremely deep, backtracking when any mythological reference come up would make this post tedious for the reader. Optimally, this should be read after my book, and less optimally after reading at least some of my previous blog posts on Discover Meaning. Part 2 next week. Alright, so make sure you check this out. There's going to be another part next week, and by the time this airs, it'll probably already be out, because right now, as I'm recording this, it is January 15th. I'm trying to stay ahead because I'm moving to Missouri soon, and I want to give myself some time to be able to get settled in and everything. So I'm doing a few of these and scheduling them ahead of time. But so make sure to check that out. Extremely interesting. Check out his other blog post and his book. I have links to his book and his late twin brother, Dave Flynn. His book's also the Dave Flynn collection. Both are in the description below. There are links there if you want to check those out. All right, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and as always, thank you for watching. Take care, and God bless.